Hey, experts listeners. I want to key you into something that we do very special here at Ops Experts Club, and that's a masterclass. We have a free masterclass called Foundations That Scale. And the great thing about this masterclass is it's for operation professionals who are growing businesses. One of the most dangerous things you can do as an operator is grow businesses on a foundations that's not stable. So in this particular masterclass, we take apart all of the inside pieces of your team, your tech, and how they're using time. And we make sure that you're building on a foundation that's stable. So if you want to check out a great masterclass completely for free, go to foundationsthatscale.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Ops Experts Club with Aaron, Taryn, and Savannah. This podcast will take you behind the scenes of some of the finer details of multi-million-dollar companies. These ops experts have dealt with operations for scaling companies and well-established businesses with anywhere from small to large teams. If you've ever been deep into the details of a major company, then you know how much it takes, and these conversations are just for you. Welcome to the Ops Experts Club podcast.
Ops Experts Club. Good to see you guys. Taryn Turner, Savannah, how are you doing?
Good.
Savannah, you're like, I'm so freaking pregnant. You ask me one more time how I'm doing, I'm going to punch you in the mouth.
It's fine. It's good. I was actually thinking more about we always talk about Wyoming weather whenever we start these calls, and we're in a winter storm warning right now. So we're in road closure, and my all-wheel drive car is in the shop. So I get
Oh man,
be stranded. It's good. We're
oh
good.
no. Dude, it's a whole different kind of human being that's able to survive Wyoming winters. And so hats off to the queen that you are already. And then on top of this is like double queens. Karen, how's your day going, man? Mondays, how's life?
It's good. Yeah. It's a mighty magic Monday.
Mighty Magic Monday. You and I always differ. I'm like, dear God, if I can just make it through Mondays, I feel like the rest of my week's going to be fine. And Taryn's like, it's going to be good. It's amazing. Mondays with Beth.
Yeah.
Oh man, Ops Experts, it's great to have you guys join us. Thanks for being on with us for the podcast today. We've got a great guest. Really excited. This guy, honestly, is just one of the best humans. He and I have got to be friends over the last couple of years. He and his wife have something really special that they do, a little bit unique. You know, a lot of the people we have here on the show are digital marketers or people that live in the digital marketing world. These folks do that, and they do something really powerful with their other business as well, which is brick-and-mortar. Formalwear and bridal boutique called Something New. And so with no further ado, I'm going to bring Jordan Linscombe to the stage. Jordan, how are you doing today, brother? How's life in Colorado Springs?
Hey, it's great. Love it here. I've been in the Springs for 20 years and I get tired of it, man. We love it, but honored to be on the show here with all you guys today and the team.
Yeah, man, we're honored to have you here. I know you and Mindy, I say it sometimes on the show, but I mean it most talking about you guys today. And that is just have become some of my favorite people to hang out with. Just fun. And last time you cruised to Oregon, you reached out and you're like, hey, let's go have a cup of coffee. We were able to grab a cup of coffee, talk about what you guys are doing with something new and with Boss, which I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit about and kind of frame up for the crowd. Because what you guys do is unique. A lot of the folks that we bring on here, maybe they have a great online presence. We've got to work with some great names out there that have got really big reach, but very few people do what you're doing, which is online presence, but also a very strong brick and mortar, you know, and I believe that's where you guys started. So maybe you could just kind of frame up for the crowd what it is that you offer, you and Mindy, and what the businesses are, and then what your role is that you play.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, so my wife, Mindy, and I, we've been married nearly 20 years. And in our early years of dating, engaged, married, we always were talking because she had on her heart, like, I want to start my own business, my own thing, but I don't know what it is. Part of our Genesis story was from when she went to look for her wedding dress here in Colorado Springs, where we live. She didn't have a great experience. And even going into Denver, she found some places, hey, the people were nice, but the place was dingy and it wasn't great. And she's like, I didn't dream of getting my wedding dress in a place like this. Like, I wanted it to be amazing.
Right.
So she went to some higher end places and they greeted her with phrases like, do you have an appointment? What's your budget? And you want to take off my mother-in-law? Start saying stuff like that, you know, her daughter to go get her wedding dress. So I remember her coming back on a snowy night years ago. This is like late 04, early 05. She's like, I just haven't found it. And in my head, well, this is becoming more difficult than it needs to be. So she actually wound up going back to Oklahoma, where we met in our university years, because we knew a lady there who was running a shop, this Lebanese lady, just ran her store for years and said, yeah, I'll help you. So Mindy went and she had a great experience, found the dress she wanted. And she came back and was like, it shouldn't be this hard. Like we live in Colorado Springs, it's kind of a mid-sized growing economy. It didn't happen right away, but that was the genesis and like the fueling point of like, man, here's a problem and a need. What if that's a thing? And so really we talked about it. And in 2007, we were, she was working a different job. We started as teachers. We were teaching music lessons on the side. We were, rice and beans from Walmart and all the other things. We were like low budget trying to make it as a newlywed couple and hustle. And she said, I think the bridal shop is the thing I want to work towards. So we did about 6 months of homework, put together a business plan, and we're like, okay, we don't call it Mindy's Bridal, we think, or I learned some basics along the way. Side note, Aaron, I don't know if we ever told you this, we almost looked at opening a coffee shop. That was
Wow.
the top running edge.
We're not out of time. We're not out of time. We can still do something. Don't worry.
I'm glad we did it, but there's some other great ones here in town now. However, we just found our niche, but it didn't start flawlessly. So she put in 6 months of homework, told her boss, you're going to step down and start this business. And some people thought it was great. Some people thought she was crazy. I was still a teacher at the time at a high school teaching Spanish, which, is loads of money, right? When we talked about it, I was like, you know what, babe, if we're going to do this, I'd rather do it now than we'd be like 55 or 60 and kids or grandkids and just wish we would have tried. I clearly remember that moment. And so we went into this thing, okay, like let's start from scratch. Who can we learn from? Where do we begin? I mean, it was all from scratch from the beginning. We did the HELOC on our home. It was in late 07 and we got approval. If we had waited a couple of months, a couple of weeks, when things tanked in early 08, we probably would have never gotten a loan for a long time. And so that's one of our learning points is like when you recognize a moment where you feel even unction to go after something. Yeah, do your homework. Yeah, do due diligence. But there's also a time to just like get after it and go. So I'm so glad we did that. And yeah, it was just she and I. We started in 900 square feet. We signed a 5-year lease. We did our best with what we knew at that time, and we just kept trying to learn from others along the way. And we bought product from this dress rep, and we started with bridal. We started with prom dresses, and then eventually got into a little bit of menswear. But very humble beginnings. We opened on Mindy's birthday, which happened to be the first Saturday of 2008. And here we are 17 years later. I'm happy to unpack more of that, but we went from 900 square feet and outgrew that store eventually to 3,000 square feet. And then we outgrew that because that was a 3X kind of growth. And a lot of our business model has to do with, first, incredible experiences for brides and grooms and people getting formal wear. But also pragmatically, you have to have enough dressing room and square footage for the product, but especially for helping the customers. So fast forward to nowadays, we've been in a 10,000 square foot space for nearly 5 years now. We constructed our own building. We have an 18,000 square foot building. Our bridal was the top floor. We have tenants, great folks underneath us. So it's evolved over time and kind of 3X to 3X. And we have a team of about 20 to 25 ladies who help things happen at something new. And our motto is that life is worth celebrating. So that's what we want to bring to the table for people as they get their formal wear and things for their weddings.
It's amazing. Taryn, Savannah, I mean, it's pretty new end of things on the show, talking about bridal and formal wear. What are your guys' thoughts? What are the first set of questions that you want to hit Jordan with on that?
I mean, I like to say, what you do is what makes you unique as a business. It's what made you successful is finding your niche. But here, and which is why we brought you in, is looking at how you do it. And that's the operations. And that's where it's kind of shared between all sorts of different businesses, like the ones that we work with. No matter if you're a brick and mortar store or a coffee shop or online entrepreneur, is that how you got there? And so what was kind of a big game changer for you operation wise?
Yeah, I think the game changer was putting in the time early on because we had more time. And then we learned where we hit our limits, where we eventually needed to pay. It felt like paying out of the nose at times, paying out of the ears, right? Like, we're going to pay that for this outside service now. And then you get a year in or so, and if you had a good person, like a good bookkeeper, someone else, you're like, oh my gosh, it's like best investment ever. I should have never been spending my time on that. Why was I ever doing that? But when you're brand new, I was trying to do the books. I was trying to do all these things because it was just the two of us. Yeah. And we would work really hard, Saturdays was like go-to day. We had like 0 employees to begin with. My mother-in-law helped out a little bit. I'm thankful for that. And we would take her out to Tex-Mex and buy her a Stoli Doli on Saturday nights as a thank you. But learning when you hit that tipping point of like, I no longer need to do this. I need to find someone to help me. I think it was beneficial to get a good sense of everything and learn along the way. You feel like you're on a wire or like pinpoint of like, is it time? Let's do this. And I remember even moments too of like, okay, we got a bookkeeper and we outgrew that one, if you will, and went beyond their scope or their skill set. And then we moved to the next one. Same with CPAs. Like we just had who could help us at the beginning, and I'm grateful for them. Then we moved kind of to a phase 2 and next level. And then that guy retired. And, fast forward to now, Mindy is really our CEO. She's an incredible leader, incredible lady, so gifted at communication, so gifted at team leadership. And I'm just so proud of her inside and out. She's just beautiful in every way, but truly has a gift that you do not want to bridle, and no pun intended, but like you don't want to hold back when your wife has God-given talents, abilities. I just want to encourage other husbands or entrepreneurs out there working with their spouse. You got to learn or figure out, how do you celebrate that? How do you help that? How do you collaborate, just like you guys do with your name? How do you collaborate in the deepest ways where you can fully encourage and celebrate her gift? So it was hard at times, guys. We found along the way of like, yeah, she's going to be CEO, team leadership, sales and marketing are kind of the main buckets for Mindy. I oversee more of operations. And then what we found is we needed to outsource the CFO aspect. So we actually have a really high capacity CPA, but who also offers outsourced CFO services. And when I first saw the quote and the cost of what that would be, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like 1 month of his services are more than what I was paying our CPA for an entire year. But having his help to look in a new way, we meet 2 hours per month with this outsourced CFO. Okay. And there's communication along the way. And I even got my wife involved in that. It's not her favorite thing, but we've found like she's going to come. We're going to have conversations about employee performance and sales and other elements and reporting. And then I'm going to look at overall, like, income, expenses, the whole picture, right? That has been a game changer for us. And so to go from like me trying to figure out QuickBooks in the early days to like phase 2, 3, 4, and now working with a high caliber outsourced CFO, that's, to your question, I think is some of the key things. We're like, man, when do we get out of the way and how do we hire and invest in the right people around us?
That's so great.
So tough to do. So tough to do. Yeah. Sorry, Savan. You can jump in, and then I have a thought on that too.
Well, it does seem like you guys have such a good like pulse point on like when to take action on things, like even just from like deciding that that's the niche that you want to go with, because I feel like that's like a lot of people who just know that they're inclined to be entrepreneurs. They don't necessarily spend a ton of time thinking about what it is. They kind of jump from like thing to thing to like, whatever's going to make money. And I feel like you guys were really careful on making sure that it was something that was important to you guys and like felt like was something that was a need in your community, and you kind of nailed it. And then it seems like you guys are really good at picking your timing. Is there anything that you guys that you've taken action on that you're like, shoot, that wasn't the right timing, or like something that you like misread the signs?
Yeah. I mean, there's the 2020 stuff, like nobody read that correctly, right? Or that's a layup example, but I mean, you're kind of going over the normal rhythms of business. By then we were years and years in, and we bought 6 figures of prom or formalwear inventory in the mall. Like nobody was blinking twice, in September or October.
Yeah.
And then it all arrives in January. Every day from like, March through whatever, when we're typically supposed to be selling, we just have this big, rows and rows of prom dresses just staring at me. And it was heavy. It was hard. So there's a lot of variables there to, why that was a flop. But then we had to get innovative and say like, okay, what are we going to do? We're not just going to crash, like, mope about this. So we got innovative, and our team, so thankful for them, but they were like, okay, what if we create like virtual appointments? Because people can't come in the building. Our governor shut us down. I didn't like that. But we had over 6 weeks of the doors had to be closed. And so we created virtual appointments. We would ship both bridal or, I think we did a bit of formal as well too. People were reaching out from all over the country, like Missouri, Wyoming, everywhere. They're like, no one can help me with my upcoming wedding, or what do I do? So we came up with a different approach of let's have the virtual appointment and then let's send their top 4 options to them. And then they had paid enough like in advance, and they paid for shipping, and they would send the other 3 back and keep their top pick after they tried it on. So that was an interesting season of innovation, but it was not fun. It was hard. And eventually, honestly, 2021 was an incredible year for bridal and formal because there was so much pent-up demand and opportunity that the bell curve just went to unprecedented shapes of influx and demand. So then what was a total like pain in the rear of like inventory sitting there, like flushed out fairly quickly.
Everyone
I think
really
it's
excited about your slogan with life is worth celebrating. Once it opened, everyone's like, celebrate everything.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'll come back to, I'll give you some other examples. Like we own commercial real estate. So we have a building, and I just learned from some mistakes along the way as well too. If I could jump into that business, we, around that same time, in like 21 or so, we had our first tenant was going to come in, do a big build out. I'll keep it pretty anonymous here. We invested enough to buy a house for the tenant finish and like build out space downstairs. And I think we're just so excited to have our first business. And then from my perspective, I'm like, okay, this is going to help the bank have further trust in us and what we're doing. But we didn't do enough in-person due diligence. And I think we just took too many things at its word on paper or from what it sounded like. This was like an existing business, and they were going to put location number 2 in our building. I'm a big researcher. Like I could be a private investigator or like, or stalker to connect people and ideas and things. Like I can find the info, right? So I was like, okay, seems legit. And it totally bombed. And the person bailed on us. Yeah. Some life challenges, and then just never opened. And to this day, that has been a over $500,000 mistake or more, probably $750,000 mistake. And in the meantime, we've made some things work, but now we're having to split that 4,400 square foot space into 3 units instead of 1. If I knew then what I know now, I would have questioned a lot more. Like, this is too much space, too much risk. So nowadays, nobody comes into our building and partners with us there unless we have an in-person meeting. And I get to personally ask him several questions, ask him about what's your plan for marketing? If traffic dries up, what are you going to do? And, hey, you've got these competitors down the street. 1, are you aware of that? 2, what are you going to do about it? So back to your heart of your question, Savannah, like we made some expensive mistakes along the way. The bridal is more in the flow and developed a lot of expertise in that. But like anybody, okay, you learn from it, cut your losses, and you move on.
I feel like you verbalized a couple of things that I think are really good to highlight for anybody that's listening, for our listeners. And that is, here's a seasoned business owner that's telling you they still make mistakes. I think that's a super big thing to understand is that when you take risks, you're going to make mistakes, right? And like, you got to break a few eggs, like, right, to get a good scramble, or however that saying goes. I always mess with idioms, and Taryn always teases me later for them. But what that means is that if you're going to take big risks, then you're going to sometimes make mistakes, and that's okay, because I feel like that's the learning. I love the way that you framed that, Jordan. We had to reimagine. We had to rethink, like, how are we going to move all these dresses, and just the way you had to pivot and change and recalibrate and think. Taryn and I were just on another call with a client, and we were talking to team, and we're like, hey, you guys have to think through, is this still the best business model for you? Annual planning is a good time every year to be thinking about that. We're at this time of year where we're like, hey, this is how the last year went. Did everything work? What didn't work? We always do an exercise in annual planning, Taryn and I, where we're like, hey, what needs to be killed and cut? Like, what are we not doing well? And it's the decision from that we need to stop doing that or start doing something else. I love that you guys are open to that. But the other thing that you verbalized that EOS is really big on, so Entrepreneur's Operating System from the book Traction by Gino Wickman, was delegate, elevate. Like, we've got to get Jordan and Mindy living in their highest level of excellence. And the way that we do that is by delegating down things that no longer require their brilliance, So how can we SOP those things out, hand them off like you did with your fractional CFO? And I think it's brilliant, because then that opens up real estate. All of us have a limited real estate of time, right? So how can we make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck out of Jordan, out of Mindy, and as a company? So I think that I love those things.
Yeah. Thanks, Aaron. And quick comments on that. It was a bit overdue, but in the last couple of years, we've hired a house manager who literally now, she's amazing, incredible teammate. We take good care of her. She's putting away groceries from Costco right now.
I love it.
Can I do it? Sure. Any means, the best use of my time. We hired a virtual assistant. Probably should have done that a little while ago, but things that aren't like we went through, and you probably talked about this with other guests. We looked at our working activity hours and how much did we take home last year?
Mm-hmm.
Put all the businesses together because we got about 5 or 6 companies.
Yeah.
Add it all up, divided by, let's say, honestly, you're not 40 hours a week, you're probably 50 to 60. But then you get your working activity hours, over each week, over the year, and then how much is that worth per hour? And then start making decisions from there, right? And then you and a lot of listeners probably familiar with Dan Martell's and resources and other things, can't say enough how much that's helped us. But then make decisions accordingly so that you can have your time be really guarded. And that's been a game changer for us in the last 12 months as well too. Bluntly for me, it's been like, oh, I should be doing this. Like, let me stop, pause, reach out, and have that teammate help me. It might take until tomorrow, but man, these are 3 hours before I have to go pick up the kids at school. And to be really clear, I'm about to do it in an hour or so. Like, we prioritize dropping off our kids and picking them up. We could delegate, but we'll never get that back in life. And so we might be the best COO or CEO or salesperson, whatever, but if you have kids, those moments with your kids don't ever come back. So school's 3 miles away, but we're like, hey, that 15 minutes in the car, compounded over time, over the years, is lots of opportunity that we won't get back. So that whole element of like delegating wisely, but then keeping the things that only we can do has been really big on our hearts. Like,
It's so good. And Jordan, I feel like, we're coming up towards the top of our time. We might have to have you back for a part 2 because I really, really want to talk about the fact that this whole business model actually birthed into something else. And that was this whole coaching model that Mindy had in her heart. And I remember you and I sitting in Oklahoma City there for that Wellspring event. And we were talking about, Mindy had this thing in her heart. She wanted to take this step out into it. And she had kind of taken like baby steps towards it, but it was going to become this thing. And it's blossomed into this beautiful flower of a growth for you guys. And I really want to talk about that because I feel like it's not only the brick and mortar that's been really successful for you, but now this whole thing with Mindy's coaching and what you guys are offering on that side that's really successful. I would say, could you just maybe wrap it up for us and just give us, if there was one word of advice that you would give our listeners, and then maybe I'm hoping I'm going to twist your arm, maybe bring you back for a part 2 downstream so that people can hear that part. But what would you say is the bit of advice you would give somebody that's on the fence, maybe an entrepreneur themselves, thinking through next steps, maybe in that dream phase? Do you have any words that you would give them on what next steps should look like for them?
Yeah, I'd say if you are getting questions from your existing clients or people in your life and you're noticing patterns, stop and think like, okay, you must be adding value to them in your life, or they're seeking, and there's a demand for your insights or your wisdom or your products, whatever it may be. And that's what we noticed, because more and more bridal shop owners wanted some of Mindy's time, which, hey, great, but there's only so much of it. So, and then in another way, people wanted to spend time with us for coffees or other things. And we love that. We could do it all day long, but we can't. And so we did 2 things in the last year, just give you a quick preview, and then we'll do another time soon with you guys. We said, just to mentor people in general, like other aspiring entrepreneurs, existing entrepreneurs, or couples that work together, we started the Something New Show, which is on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts. And on the Something New Show, we were saying, hey, how do you create a life worth celebrating? That's the whole theme of that. But instead of, hour by hour coffees, which we do on occasion, we can share with the world, like, what does it look like to have online mentoring and encouragement and tips? And because we're big fans of common sense and wisdom and chasing after that, daily. So we started the show to share that with more people. And then on the business side, we started Bridal Owner Success Solutions, or BOSS. And our key thing is Bridal Owner Success School. It's business education. It's an advisory firm, education for other people like us that are in the retail brick and mortar bridal shop world. And yeah, totally a dream. When we met you, Aaron, we were envisioning things and seeking after it. And then fast forward in pretty much, so we have 90 stores in our community from US, Canada, and the UK, and it's growing by the week. And we're just honored to help other stores thrive and succeed and be even better, to bring positivity and even more profitability to their stores. So I think it's recognize the patterns when there's need and opportunity. And then once you make a decision to get after it, Like, is your full dedication and focus to, like, how do I start this new business? How do I start this new entity or thing? I'm doing it with a short-term rental thing in Oklahoma right now, in Tulsa.
Yeah.
The last 4 or 5 weeks, I was like, how do I be 1,000% focused to get this to a stability point? Is it going to have my focus, ongoing? No. But how do I really put in all the time and things to make sure the foundation is strong? So that's just one thing that's helped us, is like, when you say yes, like, get fully focused on it and get after it.
I love it. Jordan, man, so inspiring. I'm really excited to hear more and more about that. If people wanted to find you, if people were interested in what they heard you talk about today, where would be a good spot for them to check you out?
Yeah. So be honored to connect on Instagram. I'm Jordan Linscombe, JordanLinscombe. Then our show, would encourage you to check that out as well too. There's Something New Show. You can find that on YouTube is the best place. And if you want to learn more about our store, Something New Bridal and Formalwear is somethingnewboutique.com. And then Bridal Owner Success Solutions. If you or someone you know is in the bridal industry, we'd be honored to connect with them and help them do even better. So there's a few spots there, but man, honored to be with all of you guys and with fellow operations folks in the tribe here. Thanks so much, Aaron.
Yeah, man. Jordan, such a privilege. Thank you so much for joining us, Tara and Savannah. Always good having you here with us. Listeners, thanks for joining in for another week here on Ops Experts Club. And we'll see you next week. And I'm hoping I'm going to be able to tuck Jordan in here in just a couple episodes again, so you can hear their journey on that other side of things. So inspiring. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys all next week here on Ops Experts Club.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ops Experts Club podcast. New episodes available every week on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're curious about how some of the biggest names in entrepreneurship have scaled their businesses to the next level, check out some of our best content on this topic by going to foundationsthatscale.com. You can find the link in our bio and do your part to improve as an ops expert.